everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with a GR2 race at the Nurburgring GP track, driving the NSX this time. We did drive obviously the Lexus at Monza. I do love these GR2 races, and Nurburgring is a very strong track for myself, so we went on and we got ourselves into the top 10 stars with this lap. We ran slightly wide there but not extending like a lot of people were. We tried to keep the limits fairly in check on this lap, so I was reasonably happy, but you can see even there I was trying not to run too far wide. We had a little moment of oversteer then. Obviously I'm not running counter steer assist with this car. It does help quite massively with the GR2 cars, so I was really happy to get this lap into the top 10 stars. You really have to drive it like this and egg underneath your accelerator, and if you push down too hard, you know, it's just going to break that and you're going to spin out. So that's how you have to drive this car. You can see me doing a lot of short shifting out of the corners. Once the revs are going, you're okay to push fairly hard around the corners, but a really enjoyable combination again, the GR2 cars at this track, and I was really happy with this lap. You can see we were a bit behind our other Ghost on the first section, but we managed to catch up on this middle section. You can see we actually got ahead of the Ghost there, and going through to these corners now, trying to swing it over to that left hand side before we chuck it into this really fast right hander to get maximum exit speed. We pretty much ran the limits of the track there of what we could get away with without obviously losing time. We pretty much got us an inch away from the grass on the side and the dirt on the side, so we nailed that corner. And going into the final chicane, try and attack it as much as we can, bouncing over the curbs on the power nice and early, staying in third gear, not going down to second gear, then going into the final corner using that little bit of rubber that I like to turn in on. It's a little reference I use for the turning in point that's on that curb. It's a nice little reference you can use, and we go over the line on a 1 minute 46.783. and that was good enough, I think, for 6th or 7th in the top 10 stars by the end of the night. So we went on to our first races. For my first race after doing that lap, went straight into a race. Wasn't too sure what to expect in terms of fuel saving and what way to do the race, etc. It's 11 laps. You can see we're starting from pole position. A lot of strong drivers in this race, as you can see there. Quite a strong lobby, and I was really looking forward to trying to get a solid result. This is the race obviously that finally gets ourselves back to that A+ rated driver. We still got a long way to go in terms of getting fully back up to where we was. You know, we lost 26,000 DR in one race. I think we've got about 11,000 of that back, but it's took about 10-12 races. So I think they need to look at that system and how much you actually can lose in one race because of someone trying to ruin your race. So you can see the race is starting, we're underway. We're going to stick with the onboard action for this race and the 2 cameras in the top of the screen. I wasn't sure how to run this race. You can see I'm going fuel saving. What I came to realise on later races was this NSX literally saves no fuel when you do the fuel saving through the fuel mixture. It does save a fraction amount, but it's not worth doing. The best way to save fuel with this NSX, which I'm going to share with you now, is just by short shifting it in with the one mixture on. I tested it with this race. You can have a little look how much fuel we have left when we go into the pits after we've been doing this method now, where we're using fuel mixture 2 and then going through the corner saving fuel. So yeah, this was the obvious way to start off doing it because, you know, it's the most logical way. I didn't really know there was a better way, but you're going to see we're still in first position, obviously holding on to that lead. Everyone got through that first corner really cleanly and tidily. No crashes by the looks of it, so it's a clean start to the race. As you can see there, trying to hold on to that rear on this car. It's such a tricky car to drive, this NSX, but I am definitely starting to get used to this car now. I feel like I understand the car a lot more than when I first drove it at Brands Hatch, and obviously now that I know about the fuel mixture and short shifting about this car, I can understand where I was losing speed now and why I wasn't able to save the fuel compared to other people. And also at Brands Hatch, when we drove this car, you know, when McLaren 6 was ahead of us and he was able to maintain the speed, it was probably because he was just doing the short shifting way of saving the fuel rather than doing the way I was doing it by going through mixtures in the corner and stuff. So we can learn from that now, and now I know that's the best way to do it with this car, because you maintain good speed by short shifting this car and you save quite a bit of fuel. So it's quite a good method to do with this GR2 car, so bear that in mind when you next see a GR2 car race. If it's fairly equal, I don't know what the other GR2 cars are like at the fuel saving. I'm guessing they're going to be very similar, but this is the first car I've really noticed in the GR2 that it's beneficial just to stay in that one mixture and short shift. So that's how you want to do it, and you won't lose too much time. So that's how I'll do it from now on if I use this car. So you can see we were using fuel mixture 3 at this stage, because the benefit of that though is obviously this car is fairly hard to get on the power through corners. So using them mixtures in 2 and 3 can help you put down the power, but it was still using pretty much the same amount of fuel as fuel mixture 1, so it was hardly any difference I found. So the benefits are not that massive, but you can see there we're maintaining P1, which we've got some really solid drivers in this race. You can see there P2, 3, VP Doffra there. You got Pomponku, whatever his name is. I can never pronounce that right. IRT Nisman, he's a very fast driver on GT Sport. VP Doffra, a lot of fast drivers in this race. So I knew I had to get a good result, because if I could get a top 3 or 4 in this race, I knew I'd be back to my 8+ rated, and we can get back on getting right up there. I want to get it maxed out again. You know, we had our S rated, when it was S rated, we had it maxed out, and it was to the limit of what it could be on the bar. Obviously you can go a little bit higher, I think, in terms of the numbers when you go on the Kudos Prime website, but we had loads of disconnects after patch 1.15 that knocked us down to 65,000, and then that one race where we lost 26,000, it really did annoy me, that, because I put a lot of effort into driving consistently, and we'd got our, you know, a fairly good DR at that stage. We were on like 66,000, 67,000. We should have been like 74, 75, but obviously with the disconnect issue there's not much you can do. So I've really been concentrating on these last 10 or 12 races I've been doing, and just keeping consistency. You know, not worrying about, you know, if you're not winning races, it doesn't matter, as long as you're in the top 3. That is what I've been concentrating on. Just making sure I keep the car on the track without making errors. And I have to say, I feel like I'm making a lot of progress in terms of the race now on GT Sport. I feel like I'm able to go into different tracks. I'm able to keep the consistency a lot higher than what I used to be able to on the game. You know, even if I'm just jumping off like this race, jumping off the first time, not raced it in the day at all, jumped on, a lot of these drivers would have driven it a few times, and I'm able to match their speed and really keep it consistent. And that's something I couldn't do in the first part when I first obviously got the game. You know, we only got the game at Christmas, so it's something I'm starting to get, you know, more used to now, and I can feel myself getting a little bit faster at certain cars, and it's really coming together now a bit more. So hopefully we can keep on progressing, keep that consistency coming, just keep getting our DR higher and higher. I really want to get it back to 75,000. That's what we aim to do. We should be able to do it. I feel confident we can do that. We're driving consistently. We're not making too many errors recently. The only errors which are coming about are really unforced errors from other drivers, where they're either hitting us or stuff like that. So it's not really been errors that I'm in control of that much recently, so I'm really happy about that. And you can see the consistency on the track now. We're driving really well. We're back into fuel mixture 3 again. Like I say, I had no idea about the short shifting, and maybe if you were to use fuel mixture 2 through the corners and just short shift with that mixture, but I still feel that the benefit wouldn't really be worth it, because with fuel mixture 1, short shifting it is still very fast, and probably quite a bit faster than fuel mixture 2, so you might be 3 or 4 tenths a lap quicker, and when you work that, what you'd save out over 5-6 laps, the time in the pits is going to be, it's not going to be worth it. So I personally think that, you know, for these races it's probably best just doing the short shifting. Obviously if you were doing a private lobby race where you were doing your own thing and it was on ×1 fuel and it was a long race, it may be different, a different way of doing it there, because, you know, fuel's going to take a lot longer to go in during that stage, so the more you save the better really. So that's just, it's just different things like that. But for the sport mode, I definitely think just leaving it in one mixture and short shifting it is the best way to do it. So yeah, I know we're doing it in this race and we're doing fairly well. You know, we're not like getting outpaced by anyone. We're matching the guy behind us. He's in the Nissan. We've got a Lexus behind that, and we've got a few NSXs behind that. So we're keeping reasonable pace. I felt really happy with my pace at this point, because, you know, this was our first race. I'm not going for that one outright fast lap. I'm just trying to keep it consistent. I think Oscaro Indian Food was in this race as well. However, I think he spun on the early lap. I'm sure I saw his car spinning, so maybe he made a mistake somewhere or got tapped somewhere, and his race was pretty much ruined by that incident, so he was a fair bit behind. But you can see IRT Nisman is really pushing us hard at this stage. I couldn't really, there was no point me trying to get out of his slipstream, because all he would keep doing was staying in he could just pretty much stay in my slipstream and then just use the fuel saving behind us by short shifting or saving fuel. So I had to try and cover him off by trying to save some form of fuel, and that's why I was doing the fuel saving. Little did I know that I could have just left it in one and obviously did the short shifting, but now we know, and everyone should know this now. You know, everyone who subscribes to my channel and watches this video will know that short shifting in the NSX is probably the best way to save fuel, I'd say. So you know, make sure you do it next time you're in a race with this car. So you can see now we're coming up to close to the halfway distance in this race. I chose to go for the end of lap 6 to do my pit stop. Obviously most people do that in these races. They prefer to do the longest stint in the first stint, because the chances are you're not going to come out in traffic, so that's the best way to do it. You know, the risk of pitting at the end of lap 5 is, you know, it can work out in your favour that if you get clean air, it can be beneficial. But you know, one thing I tend to do is look at the map. You can't see it at the moment because it's in the top right hand corner behind that TV camera. Is look at the map, and I have a little look at the gaps on the track and try and work it out. And for this race, I could see there was a bit of traffic where I thought I would come out, so there was no point risking going for that early pit stop and then obviously trying to do a really fast next lap to you know, gain some advantage on obviously fresh tyres. But it just really was not worth it because there was too many cars dotted around the track. There was a lot of fast drivers in this race, so there was a lot of different cars all over the track, and the chances was I wasn't going to be able to use that pace. So the best plan was to stay out to the end of lap 6, pit the same time as what most people will be pitting behind us, etc., and just try and maintain this position. I was pretty sure though that, you know, IRT Nizman was going to be able to jump us in the pits because he's probably going to be using a lot less fuel than us. Why he's in the slipstream, he used less fuel, and he's also probably been able to do a lot more short shifting and stuff behind us and save a lot more fuel. So you can see we go over the line, and again we're keeping reasonable consistency. You know, the lap times are not amazing, but they're not bad. They're all within half a second. We're not making any massive errors. You know, that fuel mixture 2 there on the acceleration seems to help. There was a cone in the track there. I didn't know if that had unsettled the car, so I was a little bit unsure whether I should drive over that speed. Then, because of the line we had to take through that corner, with the obviously going narrow because of the cone, I couldn't get the angle into the corner. We ran quite wide going out that corner, but it wasn't too bad. But you know, a lot of people were running extremely wide on this track. I was trying to keep the limits as much in check as I could whilst maintaining speed. You know, everyone else was using pretty much a similar limits at the front of the grid. I think, you know, we were being reasonably respectful. I'm really looking forward to the FIA race in terms of the track limits for Saturday, because they've got the cones on there and the tyre walls. I don't know why they're not introducing an option to add. I don't know if they've already done it actually, but I'm hoping they've added an option to add them tyre walls and stuff into private races. That'd be a good idea, but whether they have or not, I'm not too sure. But the only downfall is I tested the Ferrari GR2 for the first time last night, and it doesn't really suit my driving, but I'm going to stick with it and try my best. It's got really nice initial traction in a straight line, but then going through the corner, if you just want to put some power down, randomly it'll understeer and then it'll just snap oversteer. So it's a car that I'm going to have to do a lot of practice with. I think I can get into the 1 minute 55, mid 55, something like that. Obviously with the track limits really strict because of the way they've done the cones. But I don't think I'll get faster than 55, 6 or 7, which I think it's going to be about 6-7 tenths off the pace, which is a shame because I feel if I had a bit more confidence putting the power on, I could probably do a bit better. But obviously I'm not going to use that stability, the counter steer assist, which a lot of people tend to use with the Ferrari, probably for that reason, because of the way it's just so twitchy, and especially when the tyres are going. I've heard the tyres are really risky on that car, so one thing I may have to do is maybe put the traction control on level 1 when we start getting through to the pit stop phase, just to try and make the rear more secure. I'll see how it goes. I'll test it out. I can have a little bit of a testing session today, and then hopefully try and get a little bit of a testing session tomorrow. Obviously I still need to get the racing done on the other races, in the daily races, to build my rating up. So it's really annoyed me that we had this situation where we lost that much DR because I can't really practice the FIA race as much as I would like. But you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter too much. As long as I'm in a competitive race and I can get some solid points, that's all that really matters. Once the proper season starts, hopefully we'll have our DR right back up there, and we can really go for them races a lot harder then. So as you can see there, we managed to come out ahead of Indian Food there. He hasn't pitted yet. It was him that had that massive spin. I think I saw it on lap 1 or 2, so he still needs to pit. We come out, luckily for ourselves, we come out just ahead of him, but I don't think he was going to try and hold us up. You could see him giving me a lot of space as we came out of the pit, so he was obviously giving us the space because there was no point in him racing us. And, very sensible driving again by Indian Food. He knows there's no point holding me up as I'm in a race with obviously P1 and P3 behind me. So I'm just trying to hold on now at this stage to IRT Nizman. He did jump us in the pits like I thought he would, and we're now just trying to see if we can gain a bit of time on him. The only issue is he's probably going to have to save a bit of fuel at the end of the race compared to myself. Maybe a little bit more than what I had to do. I'm not too sure whether he underfueled a bit. He seemed to gain quite a bit in the pits, so my guess is that he underfueled to try and get that lead and then try to build up a bit of a lead during this early phase. So I was just trying to hold on to him now and stay as close to him as you can see. Pump on Q behind us there, 1.5 seconds behind, and gaining very slightly, but again I think it was just different strategies. People seem to be saving fuel differently, and I really wish that I would have known about the short shifting in this race, because I think we would have had a very good chance of getting a more comfortable win, because we were obviously doing the mixture in 3, which was a little bit slower. It wasn't massively slower, but it was probably about between half a second and maybe a little bit more a lap slower using it that way. So if we would have just done it the other way, as you've seen when we went in the pits, we hadn't saved that much fuel. I did a little test obviously, and I did the next race after this. We did the same method as we did here, but we did it more extreme. We were going into fuel mixture 3 more often, hardly using one mixture. I was pretty much going in fuel mixture 2 all the time. We won the race. However, when I went in the pits, we had I think it was 9% fuel, and that was with doing quite a lot of saving of the fuel, and I was really confused because it was pretty much identical to what I had in this race. And then in the 3rd race I decided to just do the short shifting way with leaving it in one mixture, and I was revving it to maybe 2/3, between half and 2/3 depending on the corners that I was in, etc. If I was in a straight line I was taking the revs a bit further than half, probably nearer 2/3 to 3/4, and then went in the pits and we had 14% fuel left, so we were driving faster gaining more fuel, so it's really confusing. I still think that the best way to save fuel should be with the fuel mixture, but obviously short shifting seems to be, again with this car, the way to do it. So just bear that in mind. It's definitely, it saved me 5% more fuel than using the slower method, which is going by using the fuel mixture on level 2 and 3. So I was faster every lap and I was saving more fuel by just leaving it in 1 and short shifting. This car tends to have reasonable pull in the lower revs. It is faster, like revving it flat out, but it can maintain reasonable speed by just short shifting it. So maybe the other cars are the same. I haven't tried it with the Lexus or the Nissan. I haven't even really. I've had one very quick go with the Nissan. I've not driven it properly yet. I should really get on next time I see it. That it's on a GR2 race. I will try that car out and give a little bit of an opinion of how I feel it handles and stuff. Obviously I've driven the Lexus a fair amount of time, driven at Monza. The Lexus is obviously a little bit better in straight line performance than the Nissan. The Nissan seems to be a better car when it comes to fast corners and being able to get on the power, but then obviously getting on the power on corners and getting speed. But however, I think the issue with the Nissan is the Honda is it's slightly harder to drive in terms of doing that. The Lexus is a lot more stable. It feels like it's got a lot of grip, but you can still carry more speed in the NSX, and that's why tracks like Brands Hatch, the NSX was so strong compared to that Lexus and stuff. So that tracks like Monza, you're always going to be going for the Lexus over the NSX because of the speed. I'm guessing the NSX could probably put reasonable lap times up at Monza, but not as much as the Lexus can. As you can see there, we had a slight moment going through that curb. As at this stage we're still maintaining the gap to the guy in front. He's not pulling away, and we're into the last few laps of the race now. As you can see, Pump on Q behind us managed to get in our slipstream and started gaining on us. However, I feel like he had used quite a bit of fuel to get to that stage. So now I've got the fuel. You can see there, we're going over the lap. We've got 2 laps left, and I had like 2.1 laps of fuel, so I know I can start thinking about going a little bit more aggressive with the fuel for these last remaining laps. As you can see there, we're in fuel mixture 2, so normally I would go into fuel mixture 3 there, but I'm just going to go into fuel mixture 2 and try and see if we can gain a bit of speed. We really hooked that corner up going into this corner now. We ran a little bit wide, but we wasn't drastically wide, and again, going through this corner is so nervous driving this car without counter steer assist. It feels like if you put that throttle down even 1% too much, the rear is just going to go and snap on you. But I do enjoy driving it like that. It feels like a challenge. It feels like you're on the edge of the limit. It feels like, you know, you're gonna see, I think there's a moment on the final lap where the rear goes and I have to counter it, and I enjoy that feeling where it keeps you more alert, I think, and it makes you more aware, makes you concentrate, and you know, you feel like you've got to be in the zone with this car, because if you go off and start daydreaming, you will probably spin it and make a mistake. So you really have to really start concentrating. I've heard people talking about in the comment section, how do you maintain consistency? The thing I always say is just zone in on the race, and obviously zone in on your braking. Your braking points are so important. If you can hit your braking points pretty much perfect every time, you will find your consistency. People tend to make errors when they miss a braking spot by maybe 5-10 foot or something like that. If you brake 5-10 foot too late, it can make such a difference, because you run into a corner too late and you outbrake yourself, and then your exit's compromised, and you can lose half a second to more in one corner. So hitting your braking points, knowing your braking points, and not exceeding them, I think, is the most important thing to keeping consistency. As you can see there, we come out the last corner. I'm starting to go a bit more aggressive. I can see I've got the fuel to pretty much use it, maximum fuel to the end now, and we had a little moment coming through the final corner as the back end trying to step out. We're starting to gain on IRT now. You can see we've got him in. I can see him in, like, he's in that like close range to the slipstream. We just need a few more attempts, and I think he's pushing as well. We're both really pushing, not running too far wide on that corner again. You know, we're both keeping the limits fairly in check. It's good to see that people aren't really abusing these track limits too much, as I ran a little bit wide there. I had a little moment again. It's hard to see it on when you're watching the car, but when you're driving this NSX, you can feel it with the steering wheel. When the rear is starting to step in, you feel like you've just got to lift a little bit and just back out of it, because if you keep putting that steering input, it will just turn around on you and snap. But you can see now I'm again trying to push and gain on him. You can see me being a bit more aggressive with my driving now. I was kind of wishing there was one more lap in this race, and I felt like I was closing in on him, and I was starting to be able to put the pressure on. And you can see we're so close to that slipstream now. We're just a matter of 10 foot 2 away from slipstream. And again, we had a little moment going through that really fast chicane. You can see me just about catching it, and then going through to this fast left-hander. You can see again we're going to hit that curb, try and get the power, and again look at that moment again. This is where the tyres are starting to wear, and I can feel that, like, the car just wants to kill me basically. It wants to end this race for me, but we're keeping that concentration, and we're managing to save it while trying to push. And we actually lost about 2 attempts there, where we were obviously trying to fight the car and then keep control of it while driving aggressive. We go through that final chicane, we gain a bit more time on him there on that final chicane, and overall a really enjoyable race. I do enjoy races like this. I know there's not been much overtaking, but these type of races is why I like GT Sport. It makes you push yourself, and it's really enjoyable. And that race actually put us back to the A+ race rating, which is, you know, thankfully we've got it back. I was really annoyed that we wasn't A+ rated, and what we need to do now is obviously work on getting back to higher in that A+. We need to get right up there with the top drivers, so that when we're in these top split races, we're guaranteeing that we're going to be in them rather than put down into the second split, because at the moment it's not guaranteed we're going to be in the top splits in these FIA races because of our DR at the moment after that one terrible race at Monza. So anyway guys, hope you enjoyed that video. It's obviously I love driving these GR2 cars. I hope you like driving them as well. I hope you can take some of them tips that I've given in terms of the short shifting in the NSX. It is definitely the way to go with that car. Just short shifting with one mixture seems to be really powerful with it. So don't worry about doing the like obviously the mixture up to 2 and 3. I feel like all that's going to do is distract you anyway and probably lose your time. It's not going to gain you any time in terms of what the benefits in the pit stop. It doesn't seem to be worth it in my view. I think the way to do it is just save that fuel by short shifting in one mixture, and you will have a better race result, I think. Or you've got to be a bit careful if you want to use fuel mixture 2 for the acceleration zones in some of them tricky corners. That might be an idea, because it just dulls the power down a bit, but then you need to be back in one mixture for the straights every time and just short shift it, and you should have a more overall race pace in terms of saving fuel and your lap times. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed that video. Make sure you sub the channel if you haven't already subscribed. Click that notification button so you don't miss any future videos. We're uploading daily videos on GT Sport. I'm trying to share as much knowledge as I can with you guys, and we're going to try and get some of the track guides out that we haven't done for a while. I'm going to try and do the NSX, which you saw the first lap I did there when the video was loading up. We're going to try and do a track guide on that, slowing it all down, going through your break points. I've got the Lexus GR2 lap at Monza, and I've got some GR3 laps and GR4 laps to do. We went back onto Dragon Trail last night in the Bugatti, and I literally jumped on for about 10 minutes before the race was due to start, something like that, 10-15 minutes, and managed to get my lap to a 44.2 in that car. The race pace wasn't great. I was half asleep, but we managed to get a reasonable lap in terms of qualifying, so I may do a track guide with that car as well. That car just felt so good at Dragon Trail track compared to other cars that I've driven, like the Ferrari. It really does show how weak the Ferrari was compared to some of them top, like the faster cars. So we'll try and get some of these track guides out very soon. Anyway guys, thanks again for watching, and we'll be back very soon.